Hey everybody, Happy New Year. This is Eэхdącיא, CEO of P3 Tech Consulting, and we are in 2023 for our season of the Dawn of Drones with AUVSI. Thank you all for joining us. We are live. So everybody jump in the chat, say hello to Yoav and Manuel, our guests today from Elsight and Speedbird Aero. They are also our sponsors of the month. And we're dedicating this month to kick off the new year with the theme of New Year, New Tech. And we're going to talk today all about the collaboration between these two incredible companies and the technology they're bringing to bear, not just in their corners of the world, but globally. So really excited to have both of you on the show. Welcome.
Hi, Don. Very nice to be here again. Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Hi, Don.
And, you know, Yoav says again, because Elsight has been a great friend to this show, Yoav also is on our Full Tilt Leadership podcast. And I know we're going to be dropping some of these links in the chat. So if you missed any of those other episodes, check those out. But, you know, a picture paints 1,000 words. And I want to kick off this episode with some videos to kind of illustrate what these two are doing together. So let's go ahead and roll those. And Manuel, if you wouldn't mind going ahead and just explaining what we're going to see here.
Oh, this is excellent, Don. I can see the drone, one of the operations that we had in Israel, in Beersheba, during the Nama project with Elsight and our partners in Israel can do drones, delivering over from a supermarket back to the home base that we were testing the connectivity. We were testing flying without GPS, for example, in case it gets jammed. So this was very successful operations that we had carried over the south of Israel in March last year.
That is awesome. And I think this is going to show like maybe the takeoff here. Or
Correct.
the delivery. This was the delivery.
The delivery. That's correct. It delivers the box and then returns home. So that's actually the full breadth of Speedbird and obviously with the connectivity guaranteed by our partners Elsight. We can do this, over and over and over again. So that's the idea. Make it boring.
Well, hey, boring is good and safe is even better, right? And between the two of you, that's where the aim is here. By the way, we already have folks jumping in the chat, so super excited to have Scott Forbes from Jacksonville, Florida, saying Happy New Year, and Oswaldo Navarro also saying Happy New Year. So looks like we're having some connectivity problems, maybe on the from Israel there with Yoav. Oh, yay, he's back. And by the way, everybody, we are global. So Yoav is coming to us from Israel and Manuel is coming to us from Brazil. So, you know, bear with us if we have a glitch here or there. But, you know, that video was a great jumping board, if you will, Manuel, to talk a little bit about your aircraft. So let's do that. Can you tell us a little about the hardware? You have like 3 different models, right?
That's correct. Speedbird actually started in the US, as a matter of fact, with the plan to operate drones. So we went to the market back in 2015 trying to find drones for delivery. We couldn't find them, not the way that we wanted to do it. So we had to develop from scratch, the drones. And we started with our first drone called the LV1, obviously delivery one, and from the first concept that we focus on always delivery. Our focus was 100% in logistics, from the hardware, then the software, to allow the connectivities with our partners, not only the UTM, but also with our delivery partners and companies that we serve today. So the LV1 is the first one to receive BVLOS type certification by a very well-known certification agency called ANAC, which has bilateral agreements with the FAA, with the ESA in Europe. And, as Brazil is also known for manufacturing of aircraft because of Embraer, the 3rd largest aircraft manufacturer in civil aviation, we actually were able to do it here, do it, economically feasibly, and now we are operating and serving multiple customers, not only in Brazil, and now supporting partnerships with companies like Aero in Israel, and then in the US and other parts of Latin America as well, that we're very excited to start launching. From Brazil this week, we're going to Latin America. But the DLV1 was the first one to allow us to do that.
Now, Manuel, was that the one that was in the video, or was it the larger DLV2?
That's the first one. That's the one behind me here as well, and in the video. It's a 3 kilogram payload. It's about 2 pounds. 5 pounds, and 3 kilometers round trip. That's what is approved today to do completely BVLOS operations, right? At night as well. So we're the first ones to actually fly BVLOS at night. With now we're actually looking for the waivers to fly over people, which will start actually this month, and then very soon we're gonna have multi drone per pilot, right, per operator. So that's actually what
the
we're
one
looking
to
at.
many. I think it's M2N, or it's a really weird acronym that almost makes no sense. It's like backwards. But so the DLV2, how is it different from the one? Is it, you said it's bigger, right? Like how many kilograms or pounds can it carry?
Excellent. The DLV2 is just an extension of the DLV1. It's an exo rotor as well that can fly with 5 motors. So one goes down. We have redundancy, so we actually found it to be very efficient, and it carries up to 8 kilograms of payload, and
Oh, wow.
obviously has 3 times also the range round trip. We'll talk about round trip. We can do one way. We can do multiple stops as well. But for urban deliveries, we believe that the multi-rotor aircraft is actually the way to go. Is much safer than the eVTOLs. We'll talk about the DLV4 later, but that's another aircraft. The DLV2 is for heavier cargo, and our strategy was to keep it below 25 kilograms. Right? Why? Because certification. The problem is not the aircraft, is not the safety of the operations on the aircraft anymore. We have done this extensively and matured the hardware portion of the business. The question now is the integration of airspace, the connectivity, which we solved that problem with Elsight. After we integrated with Elsight, that was one of the major concerns of our regulators here, is how can you keep connectivity at all times with your drones doing the operations.
Yeah, so that's a great segue to pivot over to Yoav. I know we're going to get to the DLV4, so hold my feet to the fire on that, Manuel. But Yoav, let's talk about the connectivity solution, because you all created Halo, and for those that don't know about it, can you explain how Halo works and what exactly it is?
Yeah, so it started way back that we understand that the connectivity issue, it's a big challenge for any operator or platform manufacturers, because that's basically one of the hurt part of the system, or any system that needs to be either remote controlled or autonomous. You need to have the command and control, the C2 link all across your mission. And we coming from a background, our background or Elsight background is more in the defense and homeland security application, where it's absolutely a crucial need to have a reliable communication, or how we call it, connection confidence. And then we started to look on what are the other markets we can affect, and we started to look on the uncrewed industry in general, and droning specifically, understanding that we have a lot of value to unlock for the operator and the system manufacturers or the platform manufacturers to unlock more value to their customers in the end of the day, and to get to the full potential of this technology in general, speaking about, again, uncrewed and drone in general. So scratching the surface of what we're doing with the Halo, which at the end of the day, the platform that sits on the drone, it's in this side. So it's what I hold here in my hand. That's how it looks like. That's what actually sits on the drone, which is that small.
That's smaller than your palm.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can hold it like that. And there is different flavor of it, but basically what we're doing on this unit, we're multiplexing, or we are aggregating multiple network concurrently. So that can be 4 different cellular operator, for example, in the US. That can be Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, US Cellular, FirstNet, you name it. We can add to that satellite communication, any kind of point-to-point communication, like any kind of RF proprietary communication that can also be part of this aggregation mechanism, let's call it. And what we're creating an agnostic level or an abstract layer on top of all those physical layers to create, again, the robustness or the reliability communication that is required to complete any mission. And for our partners like Speedbird, we provide it in a way that it will be completely transparent for them. So it's not require a lot of hard integration, and maybe we'll talk about it, how we started work with Speedbird and how fast we started to fly. But that's definitely something that it's pretty easy to integrate on the software level, let's call it. On the mechanical level, it's a question of room on the drone, on the platform, and what you have there. But basically, it's pretty much plug and play, and gives you, again, the connection confidence that is required. Like Manoel said, that's one of the major parts. Obviously, the drone must fly, and you must have reliable and redundant systems on the drone. But communication is one of the major challenges that have when you're speaking about BVLOS operation in general, which can be both because of distance and because, like you said before, one to many, which that's what we're enabling in the end of the day.
Awesome. I want to talk about the problems basically that you were both trying to solve in the different platforms that you've created. But before we do that, Manuel, true to my word, I'm going to ask you about the DLV4. And Mike, if you could pop up that image one last time, because the DLV4 looks a little bit different than the other two. There we go. Okay, it's a fixed wing. So tell us a little bit about the DLV4, why you created it, and how it's different from the other two. What are kind of the use cases here?
Absolutely. The DLV4 is an eVTOL platform, right? That goes 100 kilometers distance, so it's quite capable of medium range distances for intercity, interstate, even depending on where you are in what type of country. You know,
Wow.
Brazil, but
Yeah.
you know, we have lots of companies that have different needs, you know, different projects, different payloads that we carry. So therefore, we have already 4 companies here in Brazil waiting for the DLV4 to be certified, which will be soon. So we're working very hard. And as Yoav mentioned, one of the questions is, can you keep reliable connectivity at distances, right? 100 kilometers or not, 100 kilometers distance. It's quite a significant distance from different cell towers, RF, depending if you have mountainous regions, over the water. How do you solve that? So our partners at Elsight are experts in that. So we work very closely to ensure that everywhere we operate, we have the right solutions. And as Yoav mentioned, Halo allows us multiple flavors of the same technology. So if you want to use it with Wi-Fi, we have scenarios that we actually land with Wi-Fi, take off with Wi-Fi, gets on top. We go with cell phones, with the cell towers, and then you can even switch later on to SATCOM, right? So it's quite capable.
Yes, I know. I've been talking to Yoav and his team for a while now about all the amazing things that Halo has done. I've written articles, by the way, also everybody out there for Drone Life, and all of those are on my website, P3 Tech Consulting. So check those out. But let's talk about that problem statement, because I mean you're both alluding to this, and I'm going to start with you, Yoav. You know, the connectivity situation, the connectivity confidence, I think, as you called it, is critical, especially for beyond visual line of sight. So tell us a little bit more about the exact problem you were trying to solve and how Halo solves that.
So when we're talking about scalable use cases, when we're talking about drones, which we all want to see this industry scale and go into the full potential, it's starting with safety. It's all about safety, because in the end of the day, we will never grow this industry without the right safety measures and the right regulatory frameworks in place. And that's have a lot of elements built into it. But one of the most important elements is to be able to monitor, control, change mission, or do whatever you want to do with the platform which is flying somewhere out there. And none of us want to have a situation that we have a drone flying, or even a vehicle driving, or a robot driving the street, from a remote location and all of a sudden you lose connection. You don't know where it is, what's going on. We're talking about BVLOS. It's not anymore line of sight, which is much easier because you can take over with kind of point-to-point RF communication or something like that. In this scenario, the pilot doesn't see the drone itself, so you want to make sure you have all the telemetry, you have the ability to have control 100% of the time, not even 99 or 95%, but we're talking about 100% of the time, because otherwise you're just lose yourself from pressure that what's going on with the drone. And that's only about the safety. Not only that, but also if we're talking about mission continuity, for example, so we want to make sure we are completing missions. Most of the use cases in our industry is use cases where you are getting, or the business model works like that you are getting paid based on completed mission. And if you're not completing the mission, that can be a big hit for the model, for the revenue model. So once we allow, or once we enable the high reliable mission completion, that's another factor to our customers and partners with why working with solution like ours or with the Halo, again, to ensure both safety with connection confidence, like I said, and mission continuity to make sure that you will be able to reach the other side safely and go back home or go to your next station without have any fear about what will happen with the connectivity, because you'll know that you're covering this end. So that's the challenge, how we see it, and what we're trying, or how we get to this conclusion, basically.
Got it. And Manuel, you actually alluded to this, you looked around and decided, let's make our own drones. Why did you choose to do that? And, again, what problem specifically were you trying to solve?
Well, reliability. I think the most important is when we're serving customers, and we're a customer-centric organization, we're looking at the problems that we're solving, right? It's not just for the sake of innovation that we will design drones, but we had customers in mind already, targets with problem cases to solve. And we researched the best technology, for example, the best way to deliver. Should we use a winch? Should we land to deliver? How we can keep them safe from people entering and interfering, how we can keep connectivity. So all this, autonomous drones is easy, to be honest with you. The autopilots that we work with can do all these missions by themselves. Wow. But when we put it in the context of today's regulatory framework, and rightfully so, they're right. We cannot release autonomous flying without the necessary infrastructure, an UTM, use space, you call it whatever, without establishing rules. So we were the first ones to sit here in Brazil and negotiate with the civil aviation authorities, with the Defense Airspace Control, to say, how can we accomplish this safely? And they gave us also the direction. Okay, this is what we have to do. So we built the drones based on the inputs of the agencies, based the inputs of what's going on around the world, and why, for example, door-to-door deliveries were not happening anytime soon, unless it was a very small, controlled, how can I say, use case, like you see in some parts of the US or in Africa. But what we are trying to do here in a major urban center is to do this scalably, safely, with the division of the airspace first, ensuring connectivity at all times, ensuring the visibility. So we actually connect with UTMs. So we actually partner with Highlander. In
also
Israel
from
as well.
Israel, also I'm a
Correct.
super fan of them too.
Yes, we are working with them. We work with them in Brazil. We brought them here. We have other UTMs as well that we actually test with. So controlling your technology, both the hardware and the software, with your operations arm and drinking from your own Kool-Aid, was a massive undertaking. But you know what? It puts us in a much better place. We're now partnering with companies in the US or in Israel that will operate our drones, because now we're coming from, we know the pain that they feel. And when they come to us and say, oh, our regulators want X, Y, Z. Okay, no problem. We can sit down with them and discuss, and we can make the adjustments necessary on our technology with our partners. We don't dominate, for example, every facet of the drone. So we have partners like Elsight, Highlander, and others that we can, accomplish this much more effectively if we did not control the manufacturing and the software that operates these drones.
Well, it sounds like, Manuel, the origin of your company was just very targeted, very specific. Like, we know we want to do deliveries. I mean, heck, you named your drones the DLV, the delivery, right, drone. So, you mentioned you kind of started in the US, went to Brazil. Like, what year was the company created?
It was actually the idea started with my co-founder Samuel Salomon, which is an engineer, and we worked together in a telemedicine company. And when we couldn't deliver medicines or medical exams, for example, laboratories in the locations that we operated, they said, well, we should be using drones, not just for food delivery or other things that are cool, but there are many healthcare deserts around the world, including the US, where we can actually apply this. So, and obviously we didn't have the funding to do it. So he actually went around researching, did a lot of work in Phoenix with a lot of companies, and he still couldn't get the funding necessarily. And I said, well, there's only place I can actually do it this cost effectively, and it's going back to Brazil. So he, in 2018, he dropped everything and started the company. And 6 months later, I followed him. So I jumped off, resigned as well, and both unemployed. And we started the company in Brazil with the support of our families. The regulators say, hey, you know what? Let's figure this out together. So a big shout out to the ANAC, which is the regulation agency here in Brazil, that welcomed us and said, let's solve this problem together, and let's make the changes in the rules as you guys can show it to us that you can actually accomplish it. So that's been actually very good because we're the only ones here thus far. So the full attention. But now we welcome other companies that are coming. And like I said, we have no problem in saying, use these companies because you're going to be taking this to the next steps. And, welcome, we welcome everyone to come, and not only to Brazil, but we're going to be in the US as well, learning what other companies have done. The idea is what Yoav mentioned is to scale this. We can do it. It will be done, but has to be done safely. And that's the pragmatism that differentiated Speedbird from others, right? We don't spend millions of dollars in frivolous initiatives. It has to be financially viable. So when we start an operation, if we don't finish in the black, we're not going to do it. We're not going to subsidize. We're not going to pay a town to allow us to fly. So it has to be economically viable for us to operate. So that's our philosophy.
Well, and I'm smiling here, Manuel, because I'm geeking out a little bit. I have been following Speedbird for a long time. You probably don't know that, but I have been a fan in the background. I know we met at AUVSI last year for the first time. It was such an honor, and it makes a lot of sense why you're partnering with Yoav and Elsight. By the way, we had a picture. We just showed the picture of your team. So you and your co-founder, if you will, kind of jumped off that entrepreneurial cliff together, and now you've got a pretty large group. So how many people are there at Speedbird now? That was a great picture.
55. So we have
Wow.
55, mostly engineers. We have no sales, just one customer success director that's amazing, that tries to juggle all the plates. But we're very focused. We don't get distracted with other requests and marketing and operations. So that's why a lot of people don't know about us. That's the first time that we actually do anything in the US besides the AUVSI, that we needed to do it after COVID, right? That allows us to go back and mingle, which is amazing for us. We were very happy to go back to the US because that's our original plan. But as we said, there's a bad thing about being in Brazil. Money is much more expensive. It's hard to get, right? We don't have the financial support, but that made us be very pragmatic and very cost effective. So that's a good thing.
Yes, very good, very good. So Yoav, I'm going to flip back over to you, and you alluded to this. You your company, you know, Elsight, really started in the defense sector, and you looked around and said, hey, there's an incredible commercial application for this. I feel like it was like almost 2 years ago, maybe you want to speak into Roe at the time, who said it took so long to get approval from your government to release that technology for commercial use just because it was so valuable. So, you know, tell us a little bit more about that and the origin story, and then we're getting get into your partnership together.
Yeah, so exactly like you said, we started in the homeland security and defense industry, mainly here in Israel. Israel is a small country, but have high spend on homeland security and defense, like you can imagine. And there are a lot of technology companies that are emerging around the needs of the Israeli Defense Forces, the Israeli Police Forces, and others. And that's how Elsight started with, at the beginning, to help ground troops to deliver video or to stream video back home to the headquarters. So any frontline that can be, again, police forces, SWAT teams, soldiers that need to stream video back home, the video to the headquarters uses our technology, and that's how we started. And along the year, we figured out that we created a very powerful and extremely powerful communication device, which is not only for video. We were very focused about video, and we found out, wow, we have here something that is extremely powerful. And then we thought, where can be the market as an unknown company from Israel? What can be the industry that we can have the biggest impact to become an industry standard, if you will, or in a very high brand awareness or brand recognition within an industry that is still a niche market, but have a great potential to grow. And we look around for different kind of verticals and markets and industries. And when we started to look on, or one of our business development folks that brought the uncrewed industry again, and it started also in the defense, obviously, because back at the time it was mainly about defense and homeland security. We started to look closely on that and understanding that we have a very strong product market fit within this industry. And today, 2.5 years after we released the Halo, which was specifically designed for this industry, we have such a great traction. We have tens of thousands of flight hours per month that is happening with the Halo on multiple different platforms, dozens of different platforms, literally worldwide, from Brazil, US, Middle East, Europe, to Asia Pac, Australia, literally everywhere worldwide. And that show a very strong value proposition, or a very strong value that we are providing with ourselves. So that's where we started. Today we still have some, I'll call it, some long tails project that are still happening with different government organization in Israel and other places, but our main focus became this industry, which is mean that we're not only becoming the professionals for connectivity, mainly for BVLOS. It also means that we are developing our product based on the industry needs for high availability, high reliability, everything is required, not only from connectivity standpoint, but all the rest of the features, if you will, that a drone operator or a drone manufacturer will need, like remote AD, like RF recording, like PICSOC or Mavlink support, or different kind of features that are specifically designed for this market. Again, understanding what are the greatest needs in this market. And not only that, maybe we'll talk about it later because it's part of our partnership with Speedbird, but also how we adjust our business model to help other companies to scale their business while still become or being economically viable, like Manoel said. And I really like the approach of, companies that have too much money might be a little bit confused about that. And if you're running lean, you understand that you must have economical proof from the very beginning, and that's what we're trying to do here.
Well, you've been proving out Halo for a while now, and you mentioned the NAMA trials. That was the video I think we saw earlier at the very beginning of the show. Right. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that's where maybe the two companies met. So you're both smiling. It's almost like this marriage. So tell us about this story of your partnership during those NAMA trials with drone delivery, and then how you decided to become partners.
Sure. So maybe the NAMA, its acronym in Hebrew, the English acronym is INDI. It's Israel National Drone Initiative, which is basically the Israel Innovation Authority bringing together multiple operator and platform manufacturers into the same airspace, trying to kind of simulate how it will look like in the future of having thousands of flights or mission happening within a short period of time with multiple operator in the same airspace. And that's what the INDI or the NAMA is. And then maybe Manoel can continue from here, but that's where we met because Israel trying to bring also great technology and great companies, trying to source great companies to be part of it. And that's how Speedbird came to Israel initially, like Manoel said, partnering with both Candu to start to do operation as part of this INDI project or the NAMA project. And that's where we met. Basically, it was Friday afternoon that had some communication requirements from the regulatory, and the rest is history, I think. But yeah, if Manoel have other his view, point of view, that would be great.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your perspective. So there you were in Israel. You've been invited to be part of these trials, and at some point you wound up in a room with Yoav and part of his team talking about like how can we work together. How did that come about?
I'm smiling here because we learn so much when we venture out, right? We had lots of difficulties in Brazil with bad communications, challenges in a continental country, but the challenges in Israel were very different from GPS jamming that we never experienced in Brazil. We have not a very good GPS systems in the southern hemisphere. It's not as reliable. You know, the shifts are very brutal, right? So the accuracy is not as good as the northern hemisphere for more satellites. Everybody knows that. So we were able to solve that here. So we were very confident when we left Brazil. Let's go to Israel. The first foreign company invited to be part of the INDI project, NAMA. We had our partners Candu ready to operate. So when we got there and we start really digging through the together before we even put the first drone to flight, a whole week of just debriefing and looking at the technology with the regulators. And they looked at me and they said, well, you only have one SIM card. So, okay, we're flying 3 kilometers, right? That's what, we can get the routes approved. And they said, no. You have to have more reliability in, here in Israel, we're going to demand, and I didn't even know because we just started also, this was 2 years ago, operations in Brazil that would test our limit with 1 or 2 SIM cards that we used before, right? And it wasn't like the technology the Elsight had, was, okay, one SIM card goes down, he pulls the other one. What happens with the telecommunication systems now with Elsight, they get the best out of every single thing that is out there, 2G, 3G, they squeeze it up and they give us something. That we have operations in the deep south of Brazil, in rural areas, transporting swine semen. I won't tell that to our Jewish friends.
Yeah, when you said that, I got to stop you. When you said that on Clubhouse, by the way, everybody, great Clubhouse last Thursday. First one with Maggie Schuster, our new production manager and the new host of that Clubhouse. So we'll drop that link for you guys. When you said that last week in Clubhouse, I was like, swine semen. And then after I talked to Maggie and she's just like, oh yeah, that like I lived on a farm, like that's totally normal. Like, and I was just like, okay, but that was like one of the things you were delivering.
It's unbelievable. I mean, all the things that we delivered, that was actually one of the best and actually most cost effective because it goes from clean area to clean area. So now we're delivering chemical samples within factories and there's multiple applications. But when we arrived in Israel, it was like rude awakening. It's like, wow, okay, we need to do that. So, and they said, no, don't worry about it. You don't need to develop. There's already a company here. They came in one day. They gave us, we replaced with Candu. That's the also amazing things about the country of Israel. Everyone is very technically savvy. They were able to open our drones with me there. I had no tech. It was my my partner Eloisa Rios and I. Just in the first visit. So we worked on the drones. They put the halo in like that. It started to work. It
Wow.
was, and then we're like, wow, this is surprising. Let's see how it works. And then they put the 4 SIMs in Israel. everything was working fine. And now I was puzzled, and I called my partner in Brazil and said, well, we need to do this. I don't like to do, I want the best in the drones. I want the best of the technologies. At that time, Yoav, we had a discussion about pricing, because now we're going from one SIM card to 4 SIM cards, right?
Right.
And other things. I say, okay, how can we make this? That's why they created another model, a financial model, to help companies like ours that didn't want to spend immediately on the hardware, right? So they
Yeah.
made it as such a way that we could actually time it with the projects, which is absolutely amazing the way it worked. But the other thing, just to finish how amazing the experience was, we didn't know how we're gonna do this, and this was the last day of indie project. That 2 weeks that we were flying back, I was at the airport, and I had Nimrod, a good friend from Elsight, running because we were boarding, and he brought us 2 Halos already with the Brazilian authorization, because you have to have the telecommunications approvals, right? And we were very lucky that the flight was delayed as well, and Nimrod was able to give us 2 samples for us to use in Brazil. And say, no, don't only do it in Israel. We already have this equipment that works in Brazil. It's already certified by the Ministry of Telecommunications, and it's true. I saw the sign,
Yep.
and we took it to Brazil. The rest is history. So once
Manuel, you raised something I never really thought about, which is just maybe so blindingly obvious, but how operational conditions can be so significantly different depending on where you are. Israel is a really tough playground. It's a tough neighborhood. And the GPS jamming you mentioned, all of these things, and then to say, yes, let's try this in Brazil, in our environment, see how it goes. And obviously so far so good. So let's segue and talk a little bit about what's new, because I think, Manuel, you kind of alluded to this, and I'm going to go back to Yoav. So you kind of pivoted your model a little bit, Yoav, for companies like Speedbird and others that maybe didn't want to put a huge investment right up front. So tell us about this new service, I'm going to say, that you're providing.
Yeah, absolutely. Service. We also call it Halo as a service. That's the trade name that we put on it. And the reason being is that we, again, always trying to think how we can help our industry and how we can help our great partners to grow their business. And we started to think about how we can make a much closer synergy between our business model and our partner business model, which means how they make their money and try to attach their expense, let's call it, on connectivity in our case, but we can talk about other ideas there, how we can connect or make it work together so it will make much more sense, economically sense, again, for our customers, as well as for ours. Again, like Manoel said, we're all here in the end of the day to make money. I'm not hiding it. It's part of what we're doing. But as long as we can support our partner to grow their business, that's what we're trying to do. So basically, Halo as a service means that today we are providing the Halo, like you said, in a lower cost, or the hardware is in a lower cost, and then we're doing kind of a monthly subscription, which kind of work in a way that kind of pay per use, if you will, which is not exactly per use because it's a monthly expense, but you will pay on those drones that you're actually using and those that actually generate revenue on the other side. And that's how it make it much more might make much more sense, to our partners working like that. Not only that, in part of some regions worldwide, not yet in Brazil, we are working on that, but in the US, as an example, part of what we're doing, we are providing the full package, so you don't have to care about SIM cards. We're getting for you the Halo with the AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile SIM cards built into the product. Everything is part from the same business model. You're getting everything in one cost. You have one-stop shop, which is very clear what is the cost structure, how it's connected to your business model. And we hope that that will help, again, our partner to accelerate their business. And I wouldn't call it a pivot because in the end of the day, we created both business case or both business models to each customer, or each partner can choose which one works better for them because it's very diverse based on the use case. But that's what we created. And we hope, looking on 2023, which Speedbird was the first partner of ours working with, and we see how successful was it, and now we're started to take it more broadly, and hopefully during 2023 have more partners using this business model, again, if it makes sense for them, and that if that's what will make them accelerate their business. So that's on the business side. That's what on the technology side, we are all the time adding more and more features and capabilities, from enhancing the 5G, and we had some great initiative with T-Mobile in the US working about specifically 5G and how it can help scale this industry in general. We had with other partners that working on different features. So it's kind of, again, working very closely with our partners and providing them with software upgrades, if you will, kind of the Tesla model, which you have the same hardware all the time with just software upgrades on the top of it, obviously based on all the certification, regulatory requirements of all the quality and safety needs that it's required. So that's what we're basically trying to push ourselves. And I think that the story that Manoel told about Nimrod, that's the spirit of Elsight. One of our values is passion, and it's passion for customers' needs, for partners' needs, it's passion for what you're doing. And I think every single partner of ours feel 100% this passion, that they can call us 2 a.m. or 4 a.m. or 2 p.m. Israel time, and we will be always available and always be there to support whomever is needed, and try to, again, do the extra mile for our partners and for ourselves, which that's the spirit of Elsight.
I love that. And you're right, Yoav. It wasn't a pivot. It was an evolution. And, so I think we're covering kind of what's new and what's next at the same time. And so I'm going to go to Manuel, and, with using Halo, working with Elsight, I know Speedbird has really evolved as well. You're not only in Brazil, but doing so many things. You mentioned the US, but you're working with other partners as well, like I believe Eve, Air Mobility, and all kinds of things. I mean, every time I turn around, there's another announcement from Speedbird, which is really exciting. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what's new? And since we're kind of combining these, tell us what you think is next for 2023.
Well, we started our international expansion right from the get-go with Israel. Israel was, as you mentioned, a phenomenal experience for Speedbird, in a tough location, no questions, right? But tough meaning, high expectations, high performance. So we got ourselves ready for the international expansion after Israel. And we believe with Halo, with the Elsight technology, with all the partners that we have from Israel and around the world, looking at the best operators. So we had a chance to operate in the US, in Chicago. We had a whole month of flights. We're going to announce it later on. Great partnership with Aero Mobility. Why? Because they're going to start operating in 2026. And there are a lot of lessons that we are learning from each other, what they're preparing for, what we are actually creating now, right, from an operations perspective, for sharing the airspace. And we work with companies like Sprite in the US. So we had a good combination with Sprite, amazing professional team, just like Can Do in Israel. And obviously with Halo. Halo, we'll start operating in the US. We called Elsight and said, I need a Halo in the US. Oh, no problem. Halo came with all the 4 SIM cards already, with a plan, with remote ID. So we were compliant and just need to change.
Wow.
It was that easy. So for us, that's exactly what we needed, a company that can accompany us everywhere, so we don't have to change the infrastructure of the drone every time we go to another mission. And so that's what's next for Speedbird, is now participating on the BVLOS flying in the US. There are multiple areas that we're considering, including North Carolina, where probably will be our new home. We are now fundraising, which is a horrible time to fundraise, but we will start talking, because what we'll show is the pragmatism of Speedbird. So we need to fundraise to come to the US. But we're taking one step at a time. So we're looking at the right partnerships the right operators, the right use cases, the right companies to serve, and then we're going to put our first office assembly plant in the U.S., looking at the U.S. market as it's definitely the biggest market, and we want to be part of it as well. And last but not least, I think Yoav, I can give you another business idea. I'm already using Halo inside my vehicle in Brazil as I travel, through the highways, and I have to do conferences and presentations. My cell phone doesn't cut it anymore, so I'm using now the
You can have
4 SIM
one
card,
microphone.
so
Yeah.
it's working quite well. Okay.
So, Yoav, I might need to like get some Halo in my basement here, honestly. I'm in Colorado Springs and I just even upgraded my plan and it's horrible. And so I have glitches, and I'm just like, there's got it. So let's talk offline. And Manuel, I'd love to talk to you more about
Got it.
some of these locations in the US too. So much going on. Like, this is so exciting. So y'all heard it here first on the Dot of Drones. I love kind of big reveals and announcements. Thank you both so much. We are a little bit like 1 minute over time, but that's okay. What I want to do is give you guys each the floor one last time to just kind of wrap things up and any concluding remarks as we close our time together. So let's go Manuel first, then we'll end with Yoav.
Well, Don, it was a pleasure and honor to be in your show, be in talking to the public here, specifically in the U.S. as well and around the world. We're very excited to what's happening to the industry and the advancements of all of our colleagues. It's not only Speedbird, right? Whatever Amazon and Google and other Mountain and great companies around the world are doing, that makes us very proud to be part of this pioneering group of companies, and this is going to take off. And as I said, the support of companies like Elsight, Can Do, Sprite, Eve. There are big announcements that we're going to be making as well. We're partnering, and it's interesting because both Speedbird and Elsight is also partnering with some very major global technology companies. So we will be announcing a few partnerships soon as well. As we're going to the US, we're changing some of our components. I can say that, to make it more, less on the old drone, how do I say, RC modeling. For example, we had a lot of improvements with our propulsion systems, ESCs, and other things. So there'll be some good announcements coming up. But I just wanted to say that's exciting, and we very much appreciate everyone's efforts in the industry to make this happen, and you as a big proponent of that, and in your vehicle is priceless for us to be able to communicate and talk and keep track of everything that's happening. So thank you. I've been keeping track of you for a while, so this was my first opportunity here to be with you. Hopefully will be many more to come. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And before we end the show with you here, you used the word proud, Manuel, and I have to say, I didn't call out this comment. Oswaldo Navarro says, I'm so proud of you guys. Aviators, go Brazil. So I wanted to kind of end on that because I thought it was amazing. And so Yoav, go ahead. Over to you to close us out here.
So I'm sharing the same thought with Manuel, that being part of this industry is actually being part of this historical change that is happening, and being actually creating this history. That's something that I think it's very fortunate to be part of, and I'm sharing the same feeling with Manuel. I would say that from Elsight standpoint, we are always looking to work with as many partners as possible, and we're working from the smallest ones to company like Speedbird and others that are much more mature in their business and everything. And we're looking for more and more companies to be part of it, to be part of our ecosystem. And it's always great, like I said, to have new customers doing new use cases. And again, I'm sharing that. Thank you, Don, for being an enabler for this industry to share thoughts, and always great to be on the show. So thank you very much for that.
Well, thank you both. And for everybody out there, thank you so much. Thanks for those that jumped in the chat today. Really appreciate you. And of course, AUVSI for giving us this great platform and opportunity this year for 2023. Great show. So thank you. And don't forget, this week on Clubhouse, we're going to have Tyler Roberts from Paladin Drones. They're doing drone as first responder, or DFR, and Tyler will be on this show next week, and you'll learn more about Paladin. So thank you both, and thank you for your sponsorship this month. Everybody, we are out here.